Well, greetings, Boise State fans. Welcome on back. BroncoNationNews.com. BJ Rains with you. A busy day here on the social media channels of Bronco Nation News. 3 live shows today, and really excited about it. Special thanks, as always, to our sponsors, Regrouping.com, the official paint and coatings company of Boise State Athletics. Would like to thank the Blue and Orange Store. You can see them as well. Transportation Compliance Services, Lithia Ford of Boise. A lot of great sponsors we'll be telling you about as we move forward over the next several weeks. But excited today on day 2 of the launch. We launched the website yesterday, and we're rolling along here on day 2. We're going to give some props to the Boise State volleyball team. Awesome to see them win the Mountain West tournament, and now heading to the NCAA tournament on Friday. And nice enough to join us for a few minutes, the head coach, Shawn Garus. Shawn, thanks for joining us here, and congratulations.
Good morning, BJ. We're really glad to be on.
13th year as the head coach as the Boise State volleyball team. You tie for the third most wins in history this year, 24-10, and you win it as the 6th seed in the tournament. What's the feeling like? I know it was kind of an up and down regular season for you, but you got hot at the right time, and now you're going to the big dance.
Yeah, I think you described it perfectly. Up and down. We were really good in preseason. We went 11-1 out of conference, including a win over number 10 in the country, Utah. In our home gym. And that was awesome. We had a lot of momentum going. We're getting kids back from injuries that first half of the season. And then it's like as soon as we got healthy, we'd lose this kid and lose that kid. And it was a real scramble. And we really weren't very good for stretches of the regular season. But we played well enough down the stretch to find our way into the conference tournament. And once you get there, anybody's got a chance. So, yeah, we were the 6th seed, but we went down to Vegas thinking we had a really good shot to win, and momentum kept building. And I think we're the best team when we left town.
I think the great statistician Doug Link was telling me earlier, 13 of your 17 players started at least one game this year, I believe, and 14 different starting lineups. How did you piece this thing together?
That's right. Doug nailed it. We played so many different lineups, and BJ, you can imagine what practice looked like trying to find all those lineups. So it's very competitive, but luckily we're a team with a lot of depth, probably more depth than we've had in any other roster that I've had in my time at Boise State, and certainly that showed. So by the end of the year, we were playing without 3 of our projected starters, but still were able to play well and win the conference.
What's that say about your team? That players were ready to step up, and other girls were just waiting for their chance, and they finally got it, and you end up, like you said, being out with some key players, and you wouldn't have known it if you were just watching that tournament in Vegas.
Yeah, at one position, particularly middle blocker, we're just really deep and fortunate to be really deep because that's a position that we had multiple injuries throughout the season. And the person that stepped up late for us was our local kid from Centennial High School, Allie O'Hara. She was fantastic at the tournament. And she was kind of battling as our second and third middle most of the year, but she played like a rock star in the end. And then the other thing that I think really helped us is that our freshmen started playing like veterans by the end of the year. And I think this was as tough a year as any for a freshman because they're coming out of the same COVID challenges that we had here on campus. They had them in high school where they had a limited or no high school season and a limited club season with limited travel. And so to be ready to play Division I volleyball in your freshman year is tough. But now we've got 2 freshmen playing big roles and playing really well for us.
Yeah, Paige Barch, obviously one of those, the Mountain West Freshman of the Year, led you at the tournament. I think the most kills, service aces, points, and but interesting story. Missed almost all of that non-conference season, right? When you guys got off to the hot start with an injury, and then comes back and ends up being one of your most important players.
Yeah, she is just fantastic, and she was one of those people that was in the very deep middle blocker position for us. And I would have said, through our preseason, like the first 2 weeks of practice, she may have projected as our starter in that position, even though we returned a lot of veterans and picked up Allie O'Hara as a transfer. But she was that good. And then she had an ankle injury, and, it's just nagging, and it's tough to get back from that. There's one thing to get cleared by the docs, but there's another thing to go back and earn that starting position at a position that's so deep. And then we had another injury open up a position on the right side, and so we changed her positions because that was just one of the kids on our roster. We felt like we got to find a way to get her on the court, and now she's become comfortable at that position, like you said, leading us down in Vegas.
Another person that obviously did a great job leading you, Lauren Ollinger, 2-time All-Mountain West, was the MVP actually down at the tournament. How big has Lauren been for you, in the past?
Yeah, really proud of Lauren for playing her best in that big stage. She was one that kind of hit the lulls in the middle of the season. I think as we lost other key players to injuries, we maybe looked for her to do more, and that just wasn't there. She was already doing a lot, and so what we needed to do is get a little bit more balance in our offense. So by getting somebody like Paige Barsh going allows Lauren to just play her game, not play her game and 2 other people's. So she's been really good for us all year. She's been top 5 in the conference in kills and points, and she's got a huge role for us. but to get the MVP down there really shows that she's the complete player that we can't win without.
Shawn Garus, our guest, the Boise State volleyball coach, getting ready for BYU on Friday night, which we'll talk about here in a minute, Coach. But you think back to, as I said, kind of what it says about the team. But you're predicted second in the preseason, so you came in with high expectations. You get off to the hot start. That Utah win was the highest in school history, right, or tied for it, I think. And then, like you said, you go into a little bit of a lull, and I think it's something. You're in the 5, 6, 7 seed, whatever range. And I mean, what was. I'm sure that they were disappointed at times and thinking, okay, well, this season's not going where we thought it would. How were they able to regroup? How were you able to regroup them with the different lineups and all that, and kind of still keep them knowing they had a chance at this thing?
Yeah, I think you're right. It was tough on the team's morale. Every time we lose somebody, it's like takes the wind out of your sail and makes it tougher to get back to the gym and practice that much harder. I would say there were times in October in the middle of conference when we just felt snake bit and we looked like we were a support group more than a competitive athletic team. But we worked our way through that. I think we did probably more talking about where we're at than practicing at times, just to make sure people knew that we still had a lot of season left. We still had opportunity and that we could be a dangerous team if we could play our way into the tournament. And so I think with 2 weeks left, we looked pretty good for making the tournament, and seed didn't matter at that point. We knew in any given day we could beat anybody. Heck, BJ, the first place team in the conference had 4 losses, so the league had a lot of parity. And it turns out the team that we played in the final, we beat 3 times this year, UNLV, who was the projected number 1. So I think talking about some things like that, like the team would suffer losses, and that's tough on morale, but to understand that there's still a lot to play for is great. And that's why I was a big advocate of getting the Mountain West Conference tournament back, which we haven't had in 10 years, but it kept us in the mix to play really meaningful matches down the stretch, where if we were just taking the conference champion to NCAAs, we might have been out of it by the end of October and playing the lame duck season the rest of the way. So really happy that our team was able to stick to it and find the magic late in the season.
I was going to ask you about that. About a decade or so, right, since the tournament went away, and I'm a big baseball fan. It's kind of like the second wild card. I mean, you would have had no teams fighting for a playoff spot with a month to go in the season. What was the reason? I know it was supposed to come back last year, right, and then got canceled because of COVID. But what was why did it go away for so long, and why did it come back? And like you said, I mean, it's a huge game changer for teams, that especially if somebody's running away with it, midway through the season.
Yes, for sure. So when we first got added to the Mountain West, that was a loaded volleyball conference because Utah, BYU, and TCU were all there. But as we added to the conference, others subtracted, and we ended up with only 8 teams in the league in our first year. And so it made sense with only 8 teams. We're not going to get that many regular season matches. Let's add a conference tournament on the back end. And then we started adding more teams from the WAC. We picked up Fresno and Utah State and Reno, and then the conference filled out to 11. And then it was like, well, how many games are we not going to play in the regular season in order to have a conference tournament? And so that was tough. And then, BJ, the way volleyball works, the last week of competition is Thanksgiving week. And that's a really tough time to have a conference tournament that you don't know if you make it or not. And you got to have holiday travel, not to mention a lot of schools share facilities with basketball, and basketball's up and running. So it was just really hard to get 11 coaches and our administrators and the conference office to agree on what was the right formula for volleyball. Ultimately, what it came down to is let's go to 6 teams qualify for the tournament, because if you can't make the top 6, you don't need any more matches, right? And then and also if you go with 6, 1 and 2 get a bye, which kind of protects the RPI if you're trying to get a second or third team into NCAAs. And then where do you host it? Do you reserve your gym hoping you're number 1, but then basketball, men's and women's, can't play on that weekend? That's really tough. And so we found a neutral site. So we were going to go to the Olympic Training Center and have our conference tournament there. We thought, like, that's cool. That's a cool, unique experience for our student athletes. Maybe something that's even recruiting, like a little bit of a bump in recruiting. How cool is that? We're going to go to Olympic Training Center for our end of the year tournament. But then it's a COVID year. They moved the Olympics another year. The National Training Center kicks us out from a host site, and we have to go back to a campus site. And that ended up working out that UNLV won the league last year and was able to host this year. So the conference tournament is back, but I am interested in what's going to happen next time the coaches get together with the conference office, have a face-to-face meeting, and consider whether it was right, whether it worked, and whether we're going to do it in the future. It certainly worked for us this year, and I think it's a good thing for just student athletes to have that end of the year experience.
You mentioned all the injuries and stuff. Going back to that for a second, have you ever had a season like this with so many different injuries? And I mentioned, your 13th year here at Boise State, but have you ever had to deal with something like this before?
BJ, not even close. Honestly, this one was crazy, and not just that we had injuries, but the type of injuries and illnesses that we had to deal with are not common. Like volleyball injuries are going to be, you're going to jam a finger, you're going to roll an ankle, a concussion. That's getting to be the more serious injury with the pace of the ball, or you catch an elbow or something like that. But this was a one-off for sure. When we won the league in 2016, I changed our lineup once in the middle of the year, and it was a
Wow.
little bit more tactical than injury. I wasn't forced into it as much as, let's see if this might work better. Otherwise, we played with the personnel that knew their roles from early in the year, and we just got better and better through the season. And the roller coaster that we've been on is very much indicative of the quality players that we've lost.
You've had 10 winning seasons, here, and I mentioned 7 winning seasons in a row, 4 20-win seasons, but this is the second time you've gotten back to the tournament. How big is that for this program, for recruiting, for fans, just to move forward, the momentum to get back there and to, and again, you were picked preseason second. It wasn't like this was it ended up being a Cinderella run, I guess, from the 6th seed, but I mean, you came in feeling good about the season and you got to where you thought you'd be, I guess, at the beginning, but only the second time in history. You mentioned 2016, you actually beat number 20 Western Kentucky in the first round, and then you lost to the eventual national champion Stanford. No harm in that. But just to get back again for year number 2, what does this mean for the program?
Yeah, I'm really proud of that. When we went in 2016, that was the first time volleyball at Boise State had made it to the NCAA tournament, so that was really cool. And it was on the heels of getting snubbed in 2015. We were 43 in the RPI and didn't get an at-large spot in 2015. So we had a team coming back in 2016 that was highly motivated, and we were good from start to finish, and we ran through the conference pretty convincingly. This year, totally different. Again, we had the momentum early, but with the skids that we hit in the middle and all the adversity that we had, this one feels really rewarding for a different reason. We weren't the best team throughout the year. We were just the best team in the last week of the season, but we're still really happy to be there. You mentioned what it means for recruiting. This program, we have a statement that we want to be playing postseason matches. We want to play matches that matter late in the year. And hopefully this just furthers that message that we're a team that can get to that level. You can come here and compete for championships, not just in the Mountain West, but also play big matches in the non-conference season, which we've never been afraid to schedule, and also make it to the NCAAs.
Well, you got your hands full on Friday, obviously, with BYU. I assume it didn't just work out that way, where all 4 of the teams are regional teams. Is that kind of we see that sometimes in the NIT and basketball and things like that? I mean, was this? I know they seed it and then they move some things around, but I mean, is that how they do it to save money and travel and stuff? All 4 of the teams in your pod there are all either from the Salt Lake area or you guys.
Yeah, so that's exactly it. The NCAA will do everything they can to make the best bracket through the top 16 seeds. And in volleyball, if you're a top 16 seed, you get to host. So that makes upsets really, really challenging. There's no neutral site for the top seeds. And then after they seed the 16, they regionalize it as best they can. So they don't really split hairs on who should be the 11 seed or the 12 seed. They'll, if it's a choice, they're going to go with a school that can bus their way in instead of fly across the country. So we knew going into Selection Sunday, there was a couple quality teams out west. You expected Washington, who won the Pac-12, to host, probably UCLA, who's got a really high ranking in RPI, and then BYU out of the WCC was a really interesting one because their record is extremely clean, but the WCC is not quite as strong as the Big Ten, SEC, Pac-12 as far as the depth of talent. So their RPI was a little bit different than what their record shows. But ultimately, when they chose BYU to host, I knew that we were on a bus headed down there just based on geography.
They've only lost once all year, and I think you guys have yet to beat them. So this is a perfect time in the history of Boise State, 0-9, to get that first win. What are the challenges that you see there, and what's it going to take to pull off the upset on Friday night?
Yeah, so challenges are many. First off, true road game. They'll have 4,000 fans in their sold-out venue. And they haven't lost at home in a couple of years. So that one's going to be really tough. They're led by a right side attacker who's a lefty that I think creates matchup challenges for us. That's one of the spots where we have a freshman against, so that's going to be a challenge. But really, BYU is just a quality program that we have a lot of respect for. A lot of my players know their players and vice versa. And we're going to have our hands full, but we're really excited to go down there and take a shot.
Well, Shawn, congratulations. Appreciate your time. Friday, 7 o'clock. Bronco Nation will be following you guys, and hopefully you can make some history, pull off the upset Friday night. That'd be awesome. And either way, it looks like you got a nice core coming back, and the future remains bright for the program. So thank you so much for your time, and best of luck on Friday.
Hey, BJ, thanks for having me on. Go Broncos.
That's right. There he is, Shawn Garus, the head coach of the Boise State volleyball team, and appreciate him coming on. Nice of him to come on. And again, Boise State volleyball Friday night. They will be in action against BYU, 7 o'clock Mountain Time. BYU is, I think, number 5 in the country, but they're the number 11 overall seed. So we'll see how that figures out. 2 more live shows coming up today as we're in full swing here. Day 2 of BroncoNationNews.com. Hopefully you've checked out the website. Hopefully you have subscribed. I don't know if I'm supposed to say this. I guess I can. We're still doing the $52 a deal, $52 for the year if you use the promo code Bronco First, BNN First 100, BNN First 100, $52 for the whole year. The promo code is still active if you want to jump on board and subscribe. We got Matt Bauscher coming up at noon, 12 o'clock Mountain Time. Matt Bauscher, former Boise State basketball player, the Matt Bauscher Show. We'll talk Boise State basketball every Wednesday at noon, and then a pretty cool interview at 3 o'clock. Boise State athletic director Jeremiah Dickey will join us live at 3 o'clock. If you have a question you'd like to submit to Jeremiah Dickey, you just must be a subscriber, and you can go to BroncoNationNews.com on the forums page, and there's a topic about questions for Jeremiah Dickey. And if you're a subscriber, you can post a question there, and we'll do our best to get that answered for you at 3 o'clock live here on the social media channels with the Boise State athletic director. So many people I want to thank. It was so great yesterday. We surpassed 250 paid subscribers on the first day of the site. It was so awesome, and I'm just so appreciative and thankful for everybody. And it was just a really cool day, and we're going to keep it rolling here with day 2. So thanks to Shawn Garus. Good luck to the volleyball team on Friday at noon. Matt Bauscher right here on the social media channels, 3 o'clock, Jeremiah Dickey. And, of course, we got content rolling out in the forums and all over the videos and the site, BroncoNationNews.com. So check that throughout the day often. Lots of Boise State updates showing up there at BroncoNationNews.com. Appreciate RowPaint.com, the official paint and coatings company of Boise State Athletics, Lithia Ford, TCS Transportation Compliance Services, the Blue and Orange Store, Crave Delivery. Also got to thank Bauscher Real Estate, Boise Dentistry Co., United Commercial Insurance, so many great sponsors, Ridley's Family Markets. So we're going to tell you as we move forward more about each of these great companies, but they're taking a chance supporting us. Hopefully you'll take a chance and support them. Just go to the sponsors page at BroncoNationNews.com, and you can get more information on all of our great sponsors. So we'll be back in about 90 minutes, 12 o'clock with Matt Bauscher, the Matt Bauscher Show, talks some Boise State basketball. Tough loss for the Broncos last night down there at Extra Mile Arena. They lose in overtime 86-82 to St. Louis. We'll break that down with Matt Bauscher coming up in about 90 minutes or so. So stay tuned to the BroncoNationNews.com channels. Go get a subscription. Appreciate it. Thank you very much, and take care, guys.
When it comes to concrete, we've got you covered. RowPaint.com offers custom concrete coating services for your garage, business, warehouse, and more. And we do it in one day. We are your complete concrete coatings solution.